Can I help you?
Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Identification.
I'm a special agent with the FBI on.
I need to see your documentation. Now.
We've heard every story.
Now. Special Agent Maya Torres, bag 728, Minneapolis field office.
The YMCA on Franklin Avenue had that Saturday afternoon energy when it happened. 3:47 p.m. The kind of Minneapolis autumn where the sun hung low and golden, casting long shadows across the parking lot while kids poured out of swim lessons with chlorine-damp hair and tired smiles. Maya Torres was standing by her Jeep Cherokee, towel-drying her daughter's braids after their mother-daughter swimming session. Still in her swimsuit cover-up, a faded purple beach dress over her one-piece, flip-flops, no makeup, hair pulled back in a messy bun that dripped pool water down her neck. Her daughter Zoe, just turned 7, was wrapped in a unicorn towel, chattering about how she'd finally mastered floating on her back. Her son Jordan, 11, was already in the passenger seat with his headphones on, probably watching YouTube. Just another weekend routine. Pool time. Maybe hit Chipotle on the way home. Maybe let the kids pick a movie for family night. Except 2 ICE agents were approaching from a white government sedan she'd barely registered when she parked an hour ago. Their body cameras were already activated, recording what would become the most expensive swim lesson in American history. If you're here to watch karma serve justice to those who abuse their power, smash that like button and tell me in the comments what state you're watching from. New here? Hit subscribe because tomorrow's story involves a traffic stop gone so wrong that a city had to pay 8 figures. Drop a comment if this story hits different for you. Agent Robert Voss led the approach, his partner Agent Luis Mendoza flanking wide, like they were approaching a suspect vehicle. Maya noticed them in her side mirror. That particular walk law enforcement has, purposeful and territorial, and her stomach dropped before they even reached her. 12 years with the FBI, 6 of those in domestic terrorism. She knew threat assessment like breathing. Federal agents, ice patches visible on dark blue windbreakers, hands resting casually near their belts, moving with the confidence of people who'd done this 100 times before. Zoe was still talking, something about her friend Emma's birthday party next weekend. Jordan hadn't looked up from his phone. Neither of them saw what was coming. Maya set down the towel, turned to face the agents, and felt that old familiar calculation kick in. The one every black person in America learns young. Be polite. Be clear. Don't give them an excuse. Her heart rate picked up, but her face stayed neutral. Afternoon, Voss said, not quite smiling. His voice had that practiced bureaucratic flatness that came from reading from a script you'd memorized 6 months ago. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're conducting compliance verification in this area. Need to see identification and documentation of legal status. Maya's hands were still damp from Zoe's hair. She wiped them on her dress, slow and deliberate. I'm a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, she said clearly, making sure her voice carried. Maya Torres, my credentials and identification are in my bag inside the vehicle. She gestured toward the open back door where her gym bag sat on the seat, FBI-issued duffel with the Bureau logo visible. Voss didn't even glance at the bag. Ma'am, we hear a lot of stories. If you have documentation proving citizenship, we need to see it now. The dismissal in his voice, that subtle edge that said he'd already decided she was lying, made Maya's jaw tighten. My FBI identification is in my bag right there, Maya repeated, keeping her tone professional. Special Agent Maya Torres, Minneapolis Field Office. If you call the Bureau switchboard, they can verify my employment and badge number in under 2 minutes. We'll verify once we've established identity. Mendoza spoke for the first time, his voice harder than Voss's. Step away from the vehicle, please. Mommy? Zoe's small voice cut through. She'd stopped talking about birthday parties and was staring at the agents, her unicorn towel clutched tight around her shoulders. Who are they? It's okay, baby, Maya said quietly, not taking her eyes off Voss. Go sit in the car with Jordan. Lock the doors. But it wasn't okay. Mendoza was already positioning himself between the Jeep and the YMCA entrance, cutting off any path back to the building. Voss moved closer, and Maya could smell stale coffee and something chemical. Pepper spray, probably standard issue for federal agents. Ma'am, I need you to step away from the vehicle. Keep your hands where I can see them. I'm reaching for my identification, Maya said slowly, deliberately. You asked for documentation. It's in my bag. I'm going to retrieve it. Don't reach for anything. Voss's hand moved to his belt. Step back from the vehicle now. Around them, the YMCA parking lot continued its Saturday rhythm. Families loading wet towels and tired kids into minivans, teenagers horsing around near the bike racks, a youth soccer team piling out of a charter bus. But people were starting to notice. A mom 3 cars over had stopped loading her trunk. A group of teenage girls had their phones out. An elderly man walking to his car had frozen mid-step. Maya took 1 step back from the Jeep, raising her hands to shoulder height, palms open. I'm complying. My name is Special Agent Maya Torres, badge number 72849. I work for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Domestic Terrorism Division, Minneapolis Field Office. I'm unarmed. My children are in the vehicle. There is no legal basis for this stop. She said it loud, clear. For the body cameras, for the phones that were definitely recording now, for anyone within earshot who might become a witness. Voss closed the distance fast, grabbed Maya's left wrist and yanked it behind her back. Maya felt her shoulder joint protest, felt the beach dress ride up, felt the hot rush of humiliation as Voss's other hand grabbed her right wrist. Metal clicked. Cold. Tight. Handcuffs biting into skin still damp from pool water. Mom! Jordan's voice cracked as he ripped off his headphones and pressed his face against the window. Mommy! Zoe screamed from inside the car, still clutching her unicorn towel. Don't move, babies. Stay in the car. Lock the doors. It's okay. I'm okay. Maya kept her voice level even though every instinct screamed to fight, to pull away, to demand they take their hands off her. This is an unlawful detention. I'm not resisting. I'm a federal agent. You're violating my Fourth Amendment rights. I'm a United States citizen born in Houston, Texas. But Voss and Mendoza weren't listening. They were already walking her toward the sedan, 1 agent on each arm, Maya's flip-flops slapping against asphalt as they moved her across the parking lot like she was a criminal they'd just apprehended. The phones were all out now. A woman shouted, "What did she do?" Someone else yelled, "She said she's FBI." A YMCA staff member in a red polo shirt was running toward the Jeep where Zoe and Jordan were crying. Maya's mind shifted into investigator mode. Time, 3:54 p.m., no Miranda rights. No reasonable suspicion articulated. No attempt to verify credentials. Voss's badge number 4721. Mendoza's 5088. Body cameras recording. Growing crowd of witnesses. Her children's faces pressed against the Jeep's windows. Zoe's unicorn towel falling to the floorboard. Fourth Amendment violation. Racial profiling. Infliction of emotional distress. She was already building the case. The sedan's back door opened. Voss pushed Maya's head down as they guided her into the back seat. Through the tinted window, Maya could see the YMCA staff member talking to Jordan through the Jeep window, trying to calm him down. Could see Zoe climbing over the center console to get to her brother, both of them crying, their small bodies shaking. The door slammed, the engine started, and the sedan pulled out of the YMCA parking lot, leaving her children with a stranger, leaving her Jeep unlocked with the keys still in her beach bag. If scenes like this make your blood boil, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button, because we expose these injustices every single day. Tomorrow's story will shock you even more. Let me know in the comments, have you or someone you know ever been racially profiled? Your story matters. Inside the sedan, Voss and Mendoza sat in the front seats. For the first 3 minutes, neither of them spoke. The radio crackled with dispatch codes Maya recognized from interagency training. The GPS showed a route to Bloomington, 28 minutes away. Maya sat in the back seat, hands cuffed behind her, and did what she'd been trained to do. Observe, document, remember. Then Voss broke the silence, his voice casual. "That's 7 this week, right?" Mendoza grunted. 8. Target yesterday puts us at 8. Richardson's gonna be happy, we're ahead of schedule for the monthly target. "Told you rec centers were the play," Mendoza said, adjusting the rearview mirror. "Public spaces, families, they process clean and don't come back with lawyers. Way better than workplace sweeps." "This one's claiming FBI." Voss laughed, not cruel, just dismissive. "Last week we had a doctor. Week before, some guy said he owned restaurants in Edina. They always claim something. We'll run her prints when we get there. If she's clean, standard release in 2 hours, move on." Richardson wants volume, not complications. Maya kept her face neutral, didn't react, didn't let them see that she was recording every single word in the same mental file system she used for terrorism witness interviews. Richardson. A name. Someone above these two agents setting targets. Monthly target. Quotas. Actual quotas tied to numbers. Process clean. They expected most detainees to take the release and disappear. Don't come back with lawyers. Targeting people they assumed wouldn't fight back. Volume, not complications. Explicit admission that legitimate enforcement wasn't the goal. Numbers were. This wasn't 3 rogue agents. This was systematic. A machine designed to target people who looked like her in places where families gathered, banking on fear and silence. They just confessed to conspiracy in front of an FBI agent who built RICO cases for a living. Maya closed her eyes and burned every word into memory. They had no idea what they just handed her. This is exactly why I do what I do, exposing systematic corruption that most people never hear about. If you want more stories like this, where the truth comes out and justice is served, smash that subscribe button right now. And drop a comment. Do you think this quota system exists in your city? Let's talk about it. The facility was a converted office building with temporary holding cells. Cheap fluorescent lighting. Linoleum floors. The smell of burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. An intake officer took her fingerprints without making eye contact. Name: Special Agent Maya Torres, Federal Bureau of Investigation. He paused. Ma'am, I need your legal name. That is my legal name. My FBI credentials are in my vehicle at the YMCA on Franklin Avenue. You can verify my employment in the federal database in under 60 seconds. Place of birth: Houston, Texas. I'm a United States citizen. This is an unlawful detention. He kept typing. Maya leaned forward. Under what legal authority am I being held? What reasonable suspicion justified this seizure? I want to speak to your supervisor. For the first time he looked at her. Something shifted in his expression, the first crack of uncertainty. Processing takes time. I'm not ma'am, I'm Special Agent Torres. 1 phone call, 60 seconds. Unless you're stalling because you know you grabbed the wrong person. He stood abruptly and left. Maya sat alone with peeling motivational posters. Integrity, vigilance, service. That felt like a cruel joke. She thought about her grandmother who'd crossed the border from Mexico in 1962, who'd cleaned houses so her children could go to school, who'd told young Maya, they can make you prove your belonging, Micha, but they can't make you smaller than you are. Maya wasn't going to be made smaller. 4 hours and 17 minutes after detention, a supervisor appeared. Gray hair, suit, expression suggesting he'd been handed a live grenade. Special Agent Torres, we've confirmed your identity with the FBI. Obviously there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, Maya let the word hang. Your agents detained a federal agent without cause, ignored her identification, handcuffed her in front of her minor children, and held her for over 4 hours. That's a civil rights violation. His jaw tightened. You're free to go. I want copies of all body camera footage, full names and badge numbers of Agents Voss and Mendoza, the incident report number, and the name Richardson that your agents mentioned in my presence. The supervisor went very still. What? Maya smiled coldly. Richardson. The one who wanted to hit monthly targets. The one your agents discussed while I was in their vehicle, along with their strategy of targeting rec centers because families process clean and don't come back with lawyers. That Richardson. The color drained from his face. I'll be retaining counsel. Expect federal litigation. Expect discovery requests for all internal communications regarding detention quotas, and expect this to be very, very public. They removed the handcuffs. Maya walked out into evening air past 8 p.m. now, autumn sky dark and starred, and called her sister Carmen. Carmen had picked up Zoe and Jordan from the YMCA and taken them to her house. Carmen, who'd raised Maya after their parents died when Maya was 16. Carmen, who'd moved to Minneapolis 5 years ago for a hospital administration job, which had eventually brought Maya to the Twin Cities. When Maya walked through the door, the kids didn't run to her. They sat frozen on the couch, staring, like she was a ghost. Maya's heart cracked open. She crossed the room slowly, knelt in front of them, opened her arms. For a long moment, neither child moved. Then Zoe started crying, not scared crying, but something deeper. Relief so profound it hurt. "Mama," she whispered, and then she was in Maya's arms, small body shaking, face pressed into Maya's shoulder. Jordan followed, wrapping his arms around both of them, holding on like he was afraid she'd vanish. "I'm here," Maya whispered into Zoe's damp hair. "I'm right here. I'm so sorry you had to see that. A lady said you did something bad," Zoe said, her voice tiny and broken. "At the Y, she said you must have done something or they wouldn't take you." Maya felt something in her chest shatter. "Baby, I didn't do anything bad. Those people made a mistake. A big mistake, but they put handcuffs on you," Jordan said, voice cracking. 11 years old and trying so hard to be brave, but his hands were shaking. "Like on TV, like you were a criminal." "They were wrong," Maya said firmly. "And I'm going to make sure they know they were wrong. I'm going to make sure they can't do this to anyone else." She held them until the shaking stopped, until their breathing evened out, until Zoe finally pulled back and asked in a small voice, "Can we go home now?" "Yeah, baby, we can go home." But later, after the kids were asleep in Carmen's guest room, both in the same bed, refusing to be separated, Maya sat at the kitchen table with her sister. Carmen set down tea neither of them would drink. "What are you going to do?" Maya looked at her sister. Carmen, who'd worked 3 jobs to keep Maya in debate club and mock trial, who'd driven her to LSAT prep and law school visits in Quantico. "I'm going to burn it down," Maya said quietly. "Every procedure, every policy, every agent who thinks they can do this, I'm going to take it apart brick by brick." Carmen nodded. "Good." The next morning, Maya documented everything. Timestamps, badge numbers, the conversation. "That's 7 this week. We're ahead of schedule. Process clean." Volume, not complications. Zoe had woken screaming twice during the night. Jordan had asked 3 times if the men were coming back. Both children flinched when a police car drove past that morning. Maya filed public records requests for ICE detention numbers in Minneapolis. What she found made the conversation make terrible sense. Detention numbers had spiked 340% in the past year. Not because illegal immigration increased, those numbers were actually down, but because ICE had implemented enhanced community presence targeting rec centers, grocery stores, churches, places where families gathered. She found 12 other victims, an elementary school teacher, a nurse detained at church, a small business owner, all brown or black, all citizens, all released without charges. None had filed lawsuits. One victim stood out, Patricia Chen, elementary school teacher, detained outside Target while buying classroom supplies. Held for 3 hours, missed her daughter's piano recital, never told anyone because she was terrified ICE would return. "I didn't know I could fight," Patricia told Maya over coffee. "I thought maybe I'd done something wrong. Maybe I looked suspicious." "You didn't," Maya said. "They did." Patricia would testify at trial. So would 11 others. Jessica Chen's office overlooked downtown Minneapolis, glass and steel and expensive art from winning high-profile cases. She'd shifted from corporate law to civil rights litigation 5 years ago. She listened to Maya's account without interrupting, taking notes. When Maya finished, Chen set down her pen. "Let me make sure I understand. You're an FBI agent. You were detained without cause at a YMCA. Your children watched, and the agents had a conversation, directly in front of you, discussing quotas, targeting strategies, and someone named Richardson who sets monthly goals." "Yes. And you remember it word for word." "I'm trained to remember witness statements verbatim. It's part of my job." Chen smiled slowly. "They gave you a master class in how their operation works." She paused. "Any other relevant background?" Maya hesitated. "I have a law degree, University of Texas. I passed the bar but never practiced, went straight to the FBI Academy." Chen's smile widened. "Of course you do. They grabbed an FBI agent with a law degree who overheard them confessing to civil rights violations." She laughed. "This isn't just a lawsuit. This is a gift. Do you think there should be criminal penalties for federal agents who conduct baseless detentions? Comment yes or no below and share why accountability at this level matters. If this story opened your eyes, please share it. These stories need to reach beyond just our community. The lawsuit filed 6 weeks later named 11 defendants: the United States government, DHS, ICE, agents Voss and Mendoza individually, and James Richardson, identified as the regional enforcement coordinator who'd implemented the quota system. Charges: Fourth Amendment violations, racial profiling, intentional infliction of emotional distress, false imprisonment, conspiracy to deprive citizens of civil rights. Evidence: 7 videos from multiple angles. Testimony from 12 victims. Maya's detailed account of the overheard conversation. Psychological evaluations showing PTSD in Zoe and Jordan. Night terrors, separation anxiety, fear of uniformed authorities. The government's first offer, $75,000 and an NDA. Maya laughed when Chen showed her. $75,000. They traumatized my children for $75,000. 3 more offers followed over 6 weeks, each larger, each with stricter confidentiality terms. The 4th offer arrived on a Wednesday, $1.3 million, conditional on Maya signing a 20-page NDA that would seal every document, every deposition, every mention of Richardson's name. Chen slid the papers across her desk. "It's a lot of money, Maya." "It's a lot of silence," Maya said. She thought about Patricia Chen, who didn't know she could fight. About the nurse at the church. About 12 families who'd taken quick releases because they didn't have resources or knowledge or fury. Maya thought about her grandmother's words. "They can question your belonging, but they can't erase it." "They want to pay me to let them keep doing this to other people," Maya said. Chen nodded slowly. "So we reject." "We reject." 2 days later, Chen called. "They've withdrawn all settlement offers. We're going to trial." "Good," Maya said. Maya spent evenings preparing testimony while Jordan did homework at the kitchen table, looking up every few minutes to make sure she was still there. Zoe refused to sleep in her own room. 6 months after the detention, she still needed to see her mother's door open, needed proof she hadn't disappeared again. The night before trial, Zoe asked, "Will those men be there tomorrow?" "Yes, baby." "Are they going to take you again?" Maya pulled her close. "No. Tomorrow I take them." The federal courthouse was brutalist architecture at its coldest. Concrete, sharp angles, windows like slits. February cold made the stone colder, ice forming in corners of the steps. Maya walked up in a navy suit, FBI badge visible on her lapel, University of Texas law ring on her right hand. Behind her, Carmen held Zoe's and Jordan's hands. The courtroom was standing room only, off-duty FBI agents, civil rights activists, community members, media everywhere. Chen's opening was surgical. She played synchronized videos, body cameras, cell phones, YMCA security, all showing the same thing from different angles. The jury watched Maya identify herself calmly, repeatedly, while 2 ICE agents dismissed her without glancing at the FBI duffel bag she was pointing to. They watched her hands stay visible, movement slow. They watched Zoe's face crumple. Jordan pound on the window, screaming. They watched suburban injustice play out in real time. Then Chen played her ace. The defendants will claim good faith mistake, but Special Agent Torres heard a conversation that reveals the truth. She entered Maya's written account into evidence, then read it aloud. "Agent Voss, that's 7 this week, right? Agent Mendoza, 8. Target yesterday puts us at 8. Richardson's gonna be happy. We're ahead of schedule for the monthly target. Told you rec centers were the play. Public spaces, families, they process clean and don't come back with lawyers. This one's claiming FBI. They always claim something. Agent Mendoza, we'll run her prints. If she's clean, standard release, move on. Richardson wants volume, not complications." The courtroom went silent. One juror's mouth fell open. Chen called Maya to the stand on day 3. Let her explain her FBI career, 12 years, commendations, domestic terrorism assignment. Let her describe the detention in calm, professional detail. Then Chen asked, "Special Agent Torres, what is your educational background?" "I have a bachelor's in criminal justice from University of Houston and a Juris Doctor from University of Texas School of Law." Chen let that sink in. "You're a lawyer." "I passed the Texas bar on my first attempt. I never practiced because I was accepted to the FBI Academy immediately after graduation." "So you understand constitutional law?" "Yes, I specialized in Fourth Amendment issues. I wrote my law review article on civil rights violations in immigration enforcement." Maya watched Chen's expression shift. There it was. The moment attorneys recognized she wasn't just a victim, she was opposition. Someone who could read the angles, anticipate the moves, build the case from the inside. The defense attorney, Carver, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Special Agent Torres, in your professional opinion as both a federal law enforcement officer and an attorney, was your detention lawful? Maya looked directly at the jury. No. It violated clearly established Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable seizure. The agents had no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion, and no articulable basis for the stop beyond my physical appearance. When I identified myself as a federal agent and offered immediate verification, they dismissed that without investigation. They detained me for over 4 hours, traumatized my children, and as the conversation demonstrates, were operating under a quota system that explicitly targeted racial minorities in community spaces. Chen nodded. No further questions. Carver stood for cross-examination. He'd been prepped to attack Maya's credibility, suggest she'd fabricated the conversation, paint her as exaggerating. It went poorly. Special Agent Torres, you claim to remember this conversation word for word. Isn't it possible your memory is imperfect? No, you don't think. I'm trained to remember witness statements verbatim. It's core FBI training for terrorism investigations. We conduct hundreds of interviews where exact phrasing matters because the difference between I might and I will can determine whether we prevent an attack. Carver tried a different angle. Isn't it true you were emotional, upset, perhaps not in the best state to accurately? I was calm. I was in investigator mode. I recognized I was hearing evidence of civil rights conspiracy, and I documented it the same way I'd document any witness statement in a federal investigation. You're asking this jury to believe you sat in handcuffs and calmly memorized? Yes, that's exactly what I did. It's my job. Carver flipped through notes. You mentioned you have a law degree. Yes, but you never mentioned this to your employer. Here we go, Maya thought. The ambition attack. The too educated narrative. I disclosed it on my application. It's in my personnel file. I simply don't advertise it because in law enforcement, being perceived as too educated, particularly as a woman of color, can create professional obstacles. So you hid it. I strategically chose not to emphasize it, the same way Agent Voss and Agent Mendoza strategically chose not to verify my FBI credentials before handcuffing me in front of my children. Carver paused, regrouping. Isn't it possible what you heard was agents simply discussing their work? Maya leaned forward. Mr. Carver, the FBI has a 24-hour verification hotline. It takes 90 seconds. Did your client spend 90 seconds verifying my claim before handcuffing me in front of my children? Silence. And Agent Mendoza specifically said, Richardson wants volume, not complications. That's not ambiguous. That's explicit instruction to prioritize numbers over legitimate enforcement. Unless you're arguing that targeting rec centers because families process clean and don't come back with lawyers is legitimate law enforcement strategy? Carver sat down. No further questions. Chen called the 12 other victims. Patricia Chen testified about missing her daughter's piano recital, about months of fear that ICE would return, about not knowing she could fight back. One by one, they described nearly identical experiences, approached in public. Asked for papers, credentials dismissed, detained for hours, released without charges, pattern established. Dr. Patricia Nwosu, child psychologist treating Zoe and Jordan, testified next. Zoe experiences night terrors 3 to 4 times per week. She's developed separation anxiety. She can't be apart from her mother without panic attacks. Jordan has become hypervigilant around anyone in uniform. Chen entered the therapy drawings into evidence. The jury passed them around. Stick figures with handcuffs, a child crying, a car with ice looming over tiny figures labeled me and Mama. One juror wiped her eyes. Professor David Reeves, constitutional law expert, explained Fourth Amendment precedent to the jury. Special Agent Torres was loading groceries after a swimming lesson. Completely lawful activity. The only basis for the stop was her appearance, textbook racial profiling, and clear constitutional violation. The defense called Voss and Mendoza. Both testified they'd followed standard procedure, acted in good faith. Chen's cross was surgical. Agent Voss, the FBI has a 24-hour verification hotline accessible to all federal agencies. Were you aware of this? Yes. It takes approximately 90 seconds to verify an agent's credentials. Did you use it? We don't typically. Did you use it before handcuffing Special Agent Torres? Voss shifted. No. Did you look at the FBI duffel bag she was pointing to? No. Did you ask to see her identification before applying handcuffs? She was told to step away. Yes or no, Agent Voss? No. Chen paused. Agent Voss, how many seconds elapsed between the moment Special Agent Torres identified herself and the moment you handcuffed her? I don't recall exactly. The body camera shows 17 seconds. In those 17 seconds, without looking at her bag, without calling the FBI, without any verification whatsoever, you decided she was lying. Is that correct? Long pause. We were following procedure. Whose procedure? Richardson's monthly targets? The courtroom went still. In the vehicle, did you have a conversation with Agent Mendoza about detention numbers? Voss's jaw tightened. I may have discussed operational metrics. Did you say that 7 this week? I don't recall the exact words. Did you mention Richardson by name? I may have mentioned my supervisor. Did Agent Mendoza say anything about rec centers being the play because families process clean? I don't recall those specific words. But you don't deny the conversation happened. Silence. No further questions. The jury deliberated 8 days. When the court clerk called to say they'd reached a verdict, Maya's hands were shaking. The courtroom filled. Activists, agents, media, community members. Zoe and Jordan waited with Carmen in a separate room. Maya wouldn't let them see this part. Judge Morrison took the bench at 2 p.m. The jury filed in. Maya tried to read their faces. Couldn't. The forewoman stood. A black woman in her 50s, a school administrator. Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of unlawful detention in violation of the Fourth Amendment, how do you find? We find in favor of the plaintiff, Special Agent Torres. Maya's heart lurched. On the charge of racial profiling in violation of the 14th Amendment? In favor of the plaintiff. On the charge of intentional infliction of emotional distress? In favor of the plaintiff. On the charge of conspiracy to deprive citizens of civil rights? In favor of the plaintiff. The courtroom buzzed. Judge Morrison gavelled for silence. On all counts? On all counts, Your Honor. Unanimous. The damages, $3.8 million compensatory, $1.2 million for Maya, $2.6 million for Zoe and Jordan's psychological harm and future therapy. Then punitive damages, $13.6 million. Total, $17.4 million. The courtroom erupted. Someone shouted, someone cried. FBI agents stood and applauded until Morrison gavelled them down. Media scrambled. Maya sat very still, eyes closed. Thinking about Zoe asking, did I do something bad? Jordan's shaking hands. 12 families who'd never fought back. When she opened her eyes, Chen was smiling. Outside, Maya gave a brief statement. This verdict isn't about punishing 2 agents. It's about exposing a system that turned constitutional violations into performance metrics. It's about protecting every family who should be able to take their kids swimming without fear. And it's about proving that credentials matter, citizenship matters, and human dignity cannot be reduced to a quota. The fallout was immediate. Voss resigned, Mendoza was terminated, Richardson was placed on administrative leave. An inspector general investigation uncovered systematic quota practices in 7 ICE regions. The entire Minneapolis office underwent federal review. Policy changes followed. New enforcement guidelines, mandatory racial profiling training, body camera requirements. None of it would have happened without the verdict. Maya used the settlement strategically. The Torres Family Defense Fund received $8 million for free legal representation for families targeted by immigration enforcement. The fund took on 70 cases in its first year. The Children's Trauma Recovery Program received $4 million for therapy for kids who'd witnessed parent detentions. The program's first client arrived 3 months after the verdict. A 7-year-old boy named Marcus, whose father had been detained at a Little League game. The boy hadn't spoken in 2 weeks. Zoe heard about him through the program coordinator. Mom, can I meet him? Maya drove her to the therapy center. Watched through the observation window as Zoe sat across from Marcus, pulled out her old drawings, the stick figures with handcuffs, and said quietly, "This happened to me too." Marcus looked up. "First time in 2 weeks. My mom fought back," Zoe said. "Your dad can too." By year 3, the program was treating 200 children. Every single one started by meeting Zoe. Maya also funded scholarships for law students from immigrant families, $2 million endowment at University of Texas Law School. And she started teaching. Once a month, she gave seminars at the FBI Academy on civil rights law, not from textbooks, but from lived experience. This is what it looks like when we get it wrong, she told new agents, showing them video of her own detention. This is what it costs. Not just in money, in trust, in trauma, in children who grow up afraid of the people who are supposed to protect them. She mentored young attorneys, especially Latina lawyers doing civil rights work, taught them what Chen had taught her. Cases are won in discovery, documentation is everything. The best weapon against injustice is meticulous preparation and refusing to settle for silence. Zoe and Jordan grew up watching their mother transform pain into purpose. Jordan ended up studying criminal justice in college, focusing on oversight and accountability. Zoe became a child psychologist, specializing in trauma from law enforcement encounters. Both cite that Saturday afternoon as the moment they understood the world wasn't fair, but could be pushed toward fairness by people who knew how to push. Maya pulls into the YMCA parking lot on a Saturday afternoon. Zoe, 17 now, applying to psychology programs, is in the passenger seat reviewing college essays. Mom, this one asks about a formative experience. Should I write about? Yes, Maya says. They sit in silence, watching families load wet towels and tired kids. The ordinary miracle of weekends without fear. They called yesterday, Maya says, another family, father detained at a soccer game. Zoe closes her laptop. What did you tell them? That we fight. Good, Zoe says. Then, will it ever stop? Maya thinks about the 12 families, the 200 children in therapy, the policy changes and training seminars and $17.4 million that bought accountability instead of silence. She thinks about her grandmother who'd told her, they can make you prove your belonging, but they can't make you smaller than you are. Not on its own, she says. That's why we keep going. Somewhere in Minneapolis, another family is leaving a YMCA after swim lessons. A mother is towel drying her daughter's hair. Her son is asking about dinner. An ICE agent in a white sedan watches them cross the parking lot. He reaches for his radio, then stops. On his dashboard there's a memo, new guidelines, mandatory verification protocols, body camera requirements. All of it stemming from Torres v. United States. All of it because one woman refused to be silent. He watches the family drive away. The line holds. If this story reminded you that accountability matters, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's video about a routine traffic stop that turned into a federal investigation. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. What part of Maya's story hit you hardest? Let's build this community together. Until next time, stay aware, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.